Yeah.
Welcome to the Music Reel. It's Nicola Burton. I'm your host. Today, I'm with Tal Chalak. Tal, welcome.
Good day, Nicki. How are you? Thanks for having me.
It is good to see you, my friend. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't introduced Tal because, Tal, you've done so much in the industry, I don't know where to start. So when I first met you, you were working at the Enmore Theatre. This is like, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And you've been involved in, I guess, event production, promotion, artist management. So I thought you might be the best person to perhaps introduce what you do, because I know it's pretty much not much that you haven't done.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, basically I've got a background in live music. That's where I started. I started as a indie band manager. And when you're an indie band manager, you also have to be a booking agent because you've got to get work for your band. And so, you know, from there, probably because I could see what indie bands needed back in 1983, I put in the first circuit of in-house PAs across Sydney. And so I became I became a band manager / agent / venue operator. And they were just small in-house PA venues. They were like 500 head and unders. Right. And I was, at the time, because of the timing of it, it was an analog era, because we're going back to 1983, 84. So I've been in this game since there were typewriters and analog recording.
You're basically 100 years old, right? That beard is just showing.
Basically, I'm an analog man in the 21st century in a digital age. But I get digital because over the years I graduated, or I changed to a negotiator for intellectual property, then later on a venue promoter, a venue owner, a licensee. So I kind of have worn a number of hats, and I've worn a number of hats in commercially successful ways. And because of all those filters and that experience, and also going over nearly a 40-year period, I have kind of like a perspective on the changes of the industry, the differences in the industry. I mean, like, still to this day, you know, I work with bands on a digital platform, and I'm kind of up with the digital scene. When I had my own venues, we actually we were promoting and making like significant money from MySpace days right through into Facebook days. We kind of were leading there, and you know, got to meet some pretty big stars and got to work with some pretty big stars, and so I've had that kind of experience across the industry. These days I work I'm under a lot of non-disclosure, but I work in venue acquisition, and I work in right assignment. And
Perfect.
So, yeah.
And this is why I wanted to talk to you, because you've got this vast range of experience from all sides, and that's what's important. I mean, let's just talk about the first time you and I really connected. You were, and I won't say who the artist was, you were managing an artist that was doing a show for Pushworth in Brisbane. You were in Sydney. Manny was in China. You called me late one Friday night. There was some stuff up, some crazy thing that we had to sort out on the spare of the moment. And that's kind of how we met. And I realised that you were a kindred spirit, in as much as whatever it takes, you just...
The show must go on. The show must go on.
Exactly.
No matter what. And like, no matter what falls over, you just have to fix it and get on to the next problem until the gig is over. And, you know, you're only as good as your last gig until your next one. So luckily the show goes on.
Exactly. Now, I want to start our conversation with lockdown. So you're rocking this lockdown beard, right? Which is the best place to start.
This.
How did lockdown impact your operations? What you doing?
Like everyone in entertainment, it threw a spanner in the works, and it just brought the whole machine to a stop. And there was a lot of things at the time that, you know, on a large kind of domestic gig terrain corporate scale that I was doing, and also on a small indie band scale that I was doing, because I really enjoy working with indie bands, because I really think that what defines a player is not the ability to walk in with $1 million and buy a tour or buy a venue, but what defines a player is the ability to be able to work with a whole lot of small fledgling artists, and to be able to see big artists rise out of that and to play a part in making that happen. That's what defines a player. So I've always kind of been interested in keeping my hand in that end of the game, because it's also, you're dealing with people that are amateurs, and because they're amateurs, they just love what they're doing. They're not really doing it for the money. And sometimes I believe that amateurs make the best professionals.
Okay.
And so you're dealing with people that want to play gigs, and that you want to give a chance to. So yeah, so what happened was when COVID hit, like everyone in hospitality and tourism and entertainment, it just threw a spanner in the works and brought everything to a stop.
Yeah.
And it was like, literally, it was like, oh, fuck, what just happened?
Yeah. Now what?
Yeah, what? All the venues have to stop operating? What? No more gigs? It's like, okay, and so it took a while to kind of like process that. And and it was interesting processing that because I'd kept my hand in the small band scene, and I work for quite established venues. Like my contacts are with venues that are circuit venues. So generally, are dealing with industry mainly. So they're mainly dealing with touring acts, promoters, established agencies, managers. They're dealing with acts that really have followings. So what I had done was I had gone and connected myself up with a whole lot of indie bands across Sydney. And they probably thought I was some kind of nutcase coming out of nowhere wanting to, get them to all do gigs and talking to them about playing in venues where they had no contact with the venue. But I thought it was important to bridge that gap between the indie scene and the established circuit venues. And so that happened. I was doing that before COVID. And so post-COVID, now we're looking at it, I'm thinking, well, hold on a sec. There's no touring, so you can't bring in international acts. The government's placed a whole lot of capacity limits, which means that whether you're a band that's worth 5,000 heads or you're a band that's worth 100 heads, you're now equal because you're only allowed to get 100 heads into a room. So what that did was it increased the currency of the independent bands. Suddenly, the field is tilted in their favour, and they're actually relatively worth more, and they're actually valuable because they're the only ones out there that are out there in large numbers that can that want to perform and that can bring people to celebrate and to enjoy and to enjoy the music and create the activity again. So I kind of see this now, for as much as the industry is in a recess state at the moment, and when we actually start rolling, the economic activity they create is going to be, it's going to be not really viable. It's an opportunity for them to use this time to build to build their careers, to build their reputations, to connect up, and it's an opportunity for people like myself, yourself, people that have been in the game for a long time that know a lot of the tricks. That can go, okay, cool. We don't have touring acts at the moment. We don't have big promoters coming through. We've got these small acts. Let's give them our knowledge. Let's give them what resources we can, and let's see what we can do to foster a stronger scene. So I kind of see a positive in it all.
It's an opportunity, and so many people are saying the same thing, Tal. We've never thought we would see this time in history, and we're seeing it in our lifetime. So you're right. I mean,
in a pandemic.
I can't believe we're seeing this. But look, it is an opportunity. So what do you think? Okay, let's just cards on the table. What do we need to change in this industry moving forward so that we can actually leverage this opportunity? Because I guess, this lockdown's given us this time and space to see it. Yep. Perhaps pull back the curtain and we can actually see the mechanism for what it is. A lot of people are seeing more than what they thought it was. I reckon it's an opportunity for us to make some changes. What do you think we could do? And I'm talking about at an organic level, independent artists, venues, agents, managers. What do you think we can do to actually
empower the bands by giving them knowledge and giving them understanding and showing them how to make a career out of this? Because, for example, I think there's been a number of changes over the last 4 decades that I've seen, and one of the changes has been these music colleges where they get music degrees in management and music degrees in being agents, but as a manager and as an agent, like, they know jack shit. They really do. They're taught much more how to fill out APRA forms and how to do a budget and how to comply and do the tasks of a manager, but they don't have the entrepreneurial savvy of a manager. They don't even know, for example, the difference between a circuit venue and a non-circuit venue. You can't be a manager or a booker and not know that a venue that's free to get into doesn't increase your band's value, and that you need to start to learn how to work the cover charge venues. So what that means is that the band suddenly, they start to get a currency. You're worth 100 heads at $10 a head. You're worth 200 heads at $15 a head. You're worth 500 heads at $20 a head. It's a currency. And what that does, it gives you positioning, and it gives you power in the industry. And more importantly, it creates revenue streams for the artists. So then the artists can afford better photographers, better graphic artists, better recording facilities, better producers. And so it allows the artists to develop. It's not just about, heads and dollars, but heads and dollars is what makes it happen. And I think we need to empower the bands to understand that better, and also not to be so, because I deal with a lot of them at the moment, and like what I'm doing is I'm trying to strategically set it up so that the cumulative ability of the whole, like I'll give this example. It's like, how, is it salmon or tuna go up a stream?
Yeah.
One of the fish, one of the fishes that go up the stream, and they go up there and they survive by getting to the top of the stream. Well, if you had 100,000 of them or 10,000 of them and you threw them in one at a time, none of them would get to the top. But if you throw them all in at the same time, it creates an alternative current, and they're able to, ascend because of the sheer volume of people that are making noise and,
right,
the shows and working together. And so strategically, I'm looking at that kind of, like, I'm trying to bring together as many of the indie bands, and I'm finding, for example, in Sydney, the scene, which wasn't surprised, is fragmented and it's disconnected. Okay, and it's fragmented because of genre, it's fragmented because of venues they play in, it's fragmented because of areas they come from, it's fragmented because of age groups. Yeah, all that. So what I'm trying to do is try to bring that all together and connect that up. So we're in the process of doing that. We set up a big group. The group is focused only on preparing to present shows, and I'm not allowing agents or bookers into the group. I'm getting the musicians to get involved and getting the musicians to do it because I want them to empower themselves. I want them to get some runs on the board as musicians. So later on, they've got some kind of benchmark as to what they expect from their managers and their agents.
So talk to me about brand then. Where does the music brand, in your perspective, come into that whole journey?
I don't know what you mean. Like, do you mean the brand of the artist?
Yeah, because the music brand, because what we do every day, we leverage the value of the brands. So whether it's the publisher, the songwriter, the studio that was recorded in, and music brands seem to be, pivotal in this industry. So is that part of your process?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, there's some rudimentary things about branding that artists need to learn, like simple things like, your logo needs to work small and in black and white as for it to know it's going to work big and, in color. Right, just little things like that, and how to go about designing that, and things like put the date on your poster. And I don't mean, like, when I say date, because they'll put 15th of June. It's like, put Saturday 15th of June or whatever it is. So they know the day and the date and the month, and people can go, oh, cool, I've got Saturday night off, I'll go to that. Some rudimentary stuff like that. But I think in terms of the branding, for it to be authentic, it needs to be the artists themselves that define all that. It's in their look, it's in their sound, it's in their aesthetic. And I think I think for that to happen, it needs, like again, is playing, it's making money, it's getting a following, it's releasing records, it's doing videos. It's kind of like, just by the act of practicing, they evolve. And I don't like to use the word brand, because I think with artists, like branding to me is like, it's like Coca-Cola or something like that. But with artists, branding is different. Like, it's not just branding; it's actually artistic authenticity. That's as to who they are.
Comes from their soul, from their heart. It's like an energy almost.
Or just the noise they make and the clothes they wear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's that. And so, like, that from the branding side, that's that. But I think more importantly, empowering the artists, is all about giving them stage time, And it's all about that stage time seasoning the artist and giving them confidence, and also allowing, you know, the venue owners and the promoters and all those people to see, you know, which ones are ascending and which ones to grant some more rite of passage to, because their genre's right, their fit's right, they're ascending, they've got their shit together and their sound's happening. So, you know, that's all part of it. I think it's an organic process. I think it's an organic process that happens across a whole lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about the venues. In a possible roadmap to recovery, what is going to be different for venues, do you think? Because
look, at the moment, New South Wales has a sit-down rule. I'm not going to put on any gigs I'm not going to put on any rock gigs in a sit-down rule. I'm going to wait for the stand-up to happen.
Yeah.
There's been a whole lot of things, but I think you really need to be in a position where things can happen. And so I'm waiting for the 100-head stand-up option, which we think is close, as long as we don't get an outbreak. Yes. And we can expect outbreaks, and we can expect that outbreaks will, you know, be a speed hump on the road and will maybe stop things temporarily. But at the end, we're going to move forward. So I think in terms of the moment, we've got to work with what we have, and with what we have, there's no financial profitability in it. There's no profitability in it. So it's more like, okay, now we're going to do it. And it's really kind of good because there's some big players out there that I'm working with that are kind of seeing the credence of this, and they're like, okay, we'll grant resources for this. And we've done more than that. There's stuff I can't say that we're doing, but we've got a whole lot of things, because we set a program up. We're not, because we've got this kind of experience, we're not just going to put gigs together. We're going to provide them with training. We're going to provide them with new skills. We're going to put them under, we're going to curate different style events. And we're really going to look at what we can do to, because there's a few differences between then and now. And some of the differences are no good. Right? And one of the no good differences is these days, people are downloading music or they're getting music off the internet. What we want to do is we want to see what we can do to start to provide CDs and vinyl and cassettes and stuff like that, so bands can go back to having some stuff that they sell at their gigs. And how do we solve, I've already kind of worked it out, how do we solve the problem of the non-existence of a collector market? Because back in our day, there were collector markets. People collected records. I've got CD collections and vinyl collections and, you know, collections. You know what that's like, of course.
I know. I've seen your library.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's right.
I know.
What's left of it.
People don't do that anymore, do they? They don't do that collecting.
No, but there's a certain enjoyment. There's something really nice when you've got, like look, I've kind of worked out something that we can do to fill that gap, and that we can create in Sydney that I think will set a benchmark that might have people looking up going, oh, how do we get involved in that? Or how do, you know, but the ability to do it isn't just from the perspective where you're sitting in a position where you can get resources and you're connected with, you know, venues, and, you know, it's not just that position. What we need to do is we need to bring that community of musicians together and get them to be involved in the whole process and to be part of what the coherent thing that's happening that makes it all unfold. And so
it's really holistic, isn't it, what you're doing? It's a holistic new model for development for artists.
I don't know if it's a new model, because I think it's always been something that happens with community. I think, like, it always happens with community, but I think what's different about it is it's been architected. Instead of, because often, like when I opened up the in-house PA venues in the early 1980s, it was because I wanted my band to make more money by having not to pay for PAs and load-ins and not having to do, you know, support spots and lose money and pay agents. So I had all these small in-house PAs pop up because I wanted it to benefit my band and and the career that we were developing. And what happened was, because it was to the benefit of the artist, a lot of artists got involved in it, because all of a sudden they're walking out with literally, you know, thousands of dollars in their pockets that they were never getting before. And they were playing in places in areas that never had venues before. But that was a communal thing. But it only works if it's to the mutual benefit of everyone involved.
That's right.
It's only sustainable if it is to everyone's mutual benefit. So the idea is to try to get that cohesive will going. by putting together something that benefits everyone. And it has to primarily, in the first spot, benefit the prime creator, being the musician.
Well, it's almost like this lockdown has created an opportunity to make the space for this. I'm really keen to watch how it unfolds, Tal, because it actually makes me feel kind of optimistic about this whole time in history. You're doing something that I don't know anyone else who's actually doing it.
I don't know. We hope so, because the best laid plans of mice and men. You don't know, but I'm pretty confident, because I'm starting to connect with a lot of these artists, and I think the very fact that there's somebody about to offer, even the way we arrange the gigs and how we're doing the gigs is different. We're not doing one room, one stage with 100 people. We're doing a venue that's got a few different venues in it.
Right.
A few different spaces in it. We're doing combined stages with a big outdoor area, and so that creates a whole communal thing where there's more to it. So we're trying to kind of think a bit outside the square and give a bit more. And I think the band's seeing that, the musicians seeing that. I'm hoping we'll see that this is something worth getting behind. And so, at the end of the day, it's really how much is how well can this be communicated and put together to benefit the artist.
Yeah.
And when that happens, how much the artist kind of sees this as happening and gets behind it to make it happen. It's not something that one person or it has to work as a team, as a community.
So if artists are watching this and they want to know more about it, can I direct them to you?
At the moment, at the moment, I'm only focusing on Sydney and surrounding areas of Sydney for this, because there's a limit to what can be done, and this is where I'm connected. I have those connections in Melbourne as well, but at the moment, also because Victoria's gone through this outbreak.
Yeah, forget Melbourne.
They're on the back burner. Sydney's on the front burner. But ideally, if this can start in Sydney and it can work in Sydney. Because I've got A-grade venues in Sydney. I've got the main circuit venues, okay, and I got also the main circuit venues in Melbourne as well. So, and I've already spoken to the proprietors of those venues, and they're kind of they like the idea. They like to talk, because you tend to, when you're dealing in music, you tend to also make relationships with people that like music. And so when they see something that makes sense to them, that's helping the artist, it's well, our doors are shut. We can't put in 800 people, but maybe 800 people and, make some money, but we can put in 100 people and give a young band a go.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, look, if anyone is listening to this conversation and you want to know more, you can contact us, and then we can have conversations with Tal just to see, because I think it's a ripper of an idea, dude. I really do. I love to hear about this. But my final question for you.
Yes.
Most important one.
Yes.
How long's the beard staying for?
I don't know. I've kind of I got the thing where I wanted to go with the Spartan 300 look, right?
It's working.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get that, but I don't really like it that much. But I'm into beard culture at the moment. I discovered a yeard. Have you heard of a yeard?
What is that?
A yeard is a beard that doesn't get cut for 365 days. There's a whole beard culture. I know. There's a whole beard culture, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of I don't mind. But
are you going to do it?
It's winter time. I don't know if I'm enjoying it as much as I'm kind of ignoring it, because I don't see it. It's I don't see it. It's on my face. I'm looking out. I don't see it. But I think once it starts to spring up in Sydney around August, September, it's going to go, and it's just going to go back to normal.
Yeah, because it'll be too itchy, too hot, too. Yeah, I couldn't see it.
Look, if you eat soup, you've got a sponge that sucks the soup up on top of your lip. It's I never knew that. It's
revolting. No, thank you. Well, look, everyone, this is Tal Chalak. I won't tell you where he's working, but it was really good to hear your conversation. And we will, I think, catch up about this further on down the track. I'm really curious to see how this goes. I love it.
Thank you, Nicki. I hope that, good things can come out of this situation that we're all in.
I think it will. Thanks, Tal.